Good morning. I'm sorry, it's not wherever you're watching. Hello, this is the Rona Report. My name is Elizabeth Chijioke. I am your host.
I'm Rock.
And I'm Marisa.
And we're here to bring you news about
Presidential debate.
Let's just get into it. So, like, what do you guys think? How did it go? What's
Marissa, that face made you gotta go.
Marisa's face said it all. She's like, I'm sick.
No, but like I saw it on, I was like, oh, okay, let me just, I watched a couple of minutes and I was like, oh no, let me send this. This was terrible. It was like, wow, okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everything was a lie. Like, it was just like, you're sitting up there in real time arguing with your cell phone. Like, that's not true. You're a liar. You liar. And it wasn't even like, a lot of presidential candidates, they tell little white lies.
Yeah.
Even Joe Biden told little white lies.
Right.
During the debate. It wasn't anything enormous and egregious. And I feel like if you guys saw CNN just went in all the way, and they probably described it better than I could have. What was it? They said it was a shit show, a dumpster fire inside of a train wreck. And it was just like, my dad was laughing the whole time, if that's helpful. He thought it was hilarious.
Entertaining, yeah.
So, I guess that's a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like it was so intentional. Like even like the first I watched it from the beginning. So like from the first 5 minutes, I immediately recognized Donald Trump's strategy was to confuse and frustrate.
Did he have a strategy?
No, that was the strategy. The strategy was to come in and cut Joe Biden off at every point, and it worked because so much feedback that I saw on social media was I just turned it off after the first 5 minutes, and I'm like, you missed this immense opportunity to see who's running for office, and these are the same people who are going to say either one, I'm going to vote, or either two, I'm not going to vote, or either two, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. And it's why don't you pay attention to actually what he's doing? And I felt I watched the entire segment with him cutting Joe Biden off, with him yelling, with him going back and forth with the moderator. I was committed to seeing his true self, him showing his ass, and that's exactly what he did. And so for me, it kind of just cemented what I already knew, which was that the president of the United States is a lunatic, and he's mentally unstable. He's a child.
I would say
foremost, yeah.
Just quick pushback on just the idea of Trump being childish in the sense of it's Trump is Trump. Trump is very uniquely a lot of terrible things that are put together, and I'm only saying that because children have the ability to be rational and compassionate and empathetic and concerned and reactive, and yeah. Anyone can be anything, and Trump is a very special amalgamation of terrible things, of which I think make him, again, he is acting within his own rationale, which I think is something we also need to acknowledge. It's not an issue of mental illness or derangement or there's not something that makes it to where he is acting with insufficiency. He was very sufficiently acting within all these, within his ability to be the worst version of what any of us, well, not what any of us, what we, I'm going to say, would want in terms of leadership, and when it comes to what the future of a country is, of this country, is going to shape out to be.
Yeah.
He's a walking tantrum. Yeah. He's the worst part of any child. It's just, and I think people were surprised when they asked him to denounce white supremacists, and he told them to stand back and stand by. But I saw a lot of people who were, rightfully angry when they saw that. But I think some people were actually really mad at Joe Biden, or they respected his restraint because
people were mad at Joe Biden for what? For telling him to shut up?
No. They were actually mad that he didn't go harder. People are now starting to get,
I saw someone who literally said, "How are you standing that close to that man? You ain't deck him."
Right. I was expecting that.
Yeah, they were like, "How are you going to talk about this man's deceased child,
right,
and him not reach over and slap the dog shit out of you?"
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a point for how low you can go.
Right.
And he just went beyond that. Yeah, because Joe Biden didn't mention his kids at all. He should have his adult children.
They all walked in.
They all
walked in and took off their masks
right.
during the debates, and it was commented that everyone else in the facility kept their mask on during the debates, and they went ahead and happily sat down, mask off. Probably the reason why half people in there, if they get infected, got infected.
Right.
That's why Chris Wallace told on national TV, on Fox TV, wear your damn masks. He was pissed off. He's like, you exposed my wife to this, you exposed my children to this, you exposed me to this. Like,
I think the Huffington Post reported that they actually did not, like, Trump and his entire like entourage did not get tested because they came
they didn't.
late.
They said it was because of the honor code, that why a lot of
the honor code of what? Is he above?
And then
what honor?
I think the fact that it also, there was a report that came out in Bloomberg this morning that the Trump White House really wasn't even testing once a day. Like, they were kind of just being laissez-faire with it.
Right.
Well, so that's how Hope Hicks was able to get through. She was the vector.
That's a whole nother conversation and episode on how we've been talking about it like in abstract terms, how they've been handling like COVID, but like all of these new, like this new information is like obviously they didn't give a flying F about this virus and are not taking it seriously at all. Like, even in
which is also what threw me when Trump tried to bring up N1H1, and it really reminded me. And the only reason why I remember that was because people talked about, like, literally the only time America would get a black, like, if America ever got a black president, pigs will fly. 100 days into Barack's presidency, pigs flew because of swine flu. And that's literally the only reason I remember that shit. But most importantly, it's because of the fact that it's like, I felt like in response, like, I didn't even remember that as being a virus pandemic because of the fact that it was just handled so differently. Whereas it feels like even now it's like whatever we're finding out, it's because we're putting in that effort to figure things out versus any kind of leadership giving actual guidance or direction on like what's going on, how things are being handled, what's happening.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. I want to like bring up the fact that to Marissa's point, I felt like, I think just as a young person and as someone outside of politics, I wanted Joe Biden to really like hone in and like really like give it to Trump, like, because I felt like there was a lot of like respectability politics like going up on that stage. Like, anytime that Trump would bring up something that was a lie or like he would just like ignore him. And I know that was Joe Biden's strategy, which was to bring the American people like facts and like to really speak to the American people. But like sometimes I wish he was just like, yo, what's up with the $750? Like, you know, like I wanted him to kind of play dirty, and he didn't.
He did, but it's his tone and his delivery, which is also why established Democrats wanted him in the first place. He has a very calm sort of demeanor. He talks very softly. He has to talk very slowly because of that stutter that he's been dealing with his whole life. But I think people wanted him to be like, you know, go in, get like.
So you can speak softly and slowly and still put somebody in their place.
That's what we needed, though.
I wanted him to go.
I want you to be mean.
I wanted him to go a little harder, but then I realized it's not Joe Biden. He's never
that's not
really
his personality.
Yeah, he's never been an attack dog. Like, if you're talking about like Kamala Harris or
That's what I'm excited.
Bernie Sanders, they were like, they're
yeah, or Bernie Sanders, or even Elizabeth Warren. They're more of like, I'll go toe to toe with you. We can go back and forth, but you're not. Joe is looking for like a moment where he can talk to the American people and seem really like an old school politician, but he's not really somebody that's going to go back and forth with you.
No,
and maybe it would have helped him. And maybe it helped him because he tested negative and Trump is now positive. I feel like
and they said that Trump was literally talking at him almost the whole time versus Biden, who was literally like, I'm actually going to be talking to the population.
It was just like,
there was no point in talking to Trump. He doesn't listen. Somebody would say something and he just move on to he wouldn't answer the question. He just move on to the next subject.
Can we talk real quick though about that whole, I'm going to ask you a question about race. Feel free not to answer it or answer anything else. I'm like,
they're not serious people.
Y'all.
It was a Fox News moderator. I'm just kind of like, I didn't expect much.
Right.
You know, the constant coddling of Mr. President. You're really gonna like this question. You're really gonna like this question, Mr. President. Okay.
Trump was very disrespectful the whole election. The whole like debate. He was very disrespectful.
It gave me what's that white blonde woman's name that came over from Fox? It was
Lauren?
No. Kelly. She came over from Fox News and then she came on MSNBC.
No.
Oh,
and
Kelly
lost her job.
Look, the fact that there's so many of them.
I know you talking about.
All of them on Fox.
Yeah. Right.
I know you talking about.
But it gave me tease of that, where she gave him one hard interview and it pissed everybody off in 2016. Mm-hmm. And then when she gave him another interview, it was, Mr. President, we're going to do this for you. And da-da-da-da. It was so like kitten gloves, talking to a 4-year-old, just, what is her name? That's going to bother me. But,
I'm about to Google it.
Yeah. I don't know why that is, but like I felt like
maybe those teas.
Especially like on this stage, like he was making like unnecessary comments about how Joe Biden didn't have it in his blood to do something.
Girl, he brought up this is what I wanted to get mean. He said that you were last in your class, right? Where this person will sue you if you bring up his high school or college grades. He's threatening the schools with lawsuits.
Right.
Like,
I don't know. Did the New York Times and NY Post like posted that like someone took his LSAT for it? Not his LSAT.
Yes.
His SAT.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. How else could he get through all this stuff? He's shown his lack of intelligence, not just lack of intelligence, but just absolute idiocracy.
What like he was saying like all this like unnecessary like things about like don't be smart with me and stuff like that. But I wanted to actually like ask you a question, because as someone who works in like construction or manufacturing, like Trump's I felt like Trump did like, I don't know what he was talking about half of the time. Like half of the time things he brought up and industries and the jobs that he brought up weren't things that I was seeing or things that were related to me. But when he brought up like the manufacturing job stats, like how did that, like what did you feel about that?
A lot of his, I can't speak to the specific numbers, but a lot of the numbers he was talking about was like pre-COVID. So you may have during your time of being in office, you may have, I hate when presidents claim it, but you may have created these amounts of manufacturing jobs, because manufacturing was coming back, right? Even when Obama was president, manufacturing was coming back because people want their supply chains closer to the American public. But since COVID has happened, there's been a drop across all sectors, but especially in jobs where people are doing things close together, like building stuff, right? Because consumer demand has dropped, so you don't need as much manufactured goods. So that's what I don't like about him, is he's not being honest at all about, they're being selective without what data they use to prove a point. Because right now he's negative jobs. Like because of COVID, because of how he handled it, every single job he's created in the last 4 years is basically wiped out. And I wish, like, Joe Biden would frame it in that way. Like, hey, he could frame it like, hey, Obama did all of this, started this path. We were going on an okay path, right? You cut taxes for your billionaire friends, and then you bungled COVID, and every single job you created is now gone. And we're in the negative, and there's been since March 60 million Americans on unemployment. Those are the type of numbers I needed Joe Biden to just be more laser focused. That was my thing. And it's hard to be laser focused when you're dealing with a petulant person like Trump, but you have to be relentless and just keep on your point and keep interrupting. If you're going to interrupt to make your point. He was kind of letting the kid just throw a tantrum. Mm-hmm. And you can't let Trump throw a tantrum because he's going to distract you from getting what you need to get off. And maybe their strategy, I was talking to one of my friends, like, oh, well, it's good that Trump sucks up so much air because all Joe Biden has to do is not fuck up. So he can stand there and look kind of.
But I mean, before you came in, and we'll come back to this. I was mentioning how I felt that was Trump's strategy. Trump's strategy was to come in, make noise, not say anything meaningful, and just take up it was an hour and a half, I believe, segment. Just take up the entire hour and a half segment and just distract.
Yeah, I think that probably was his strategy.
But what a waste of time and resources of getting people in a confined space during a fucking pandemic when all you were going to do was waste their time. When all you were going to do was waste our time. When all you're going to do,
you're not going to cancel the debate. So it's
but if you're gonna lie about getting COVID, go ahead and lie about it before you put everyone else into that.
No, I think he really has it, guys. I think he's so really. Too. I think Trump is really in trouble.
Because that's
I don't believe
humiliating.
I was gonna say, and the thing that's scary is the fact that as much as I want to believe y'all, I'm also just kind of at this point in this governance, in this regime of governance, I legitimately have no idea what to believe when it comes to anything that they say.
Yeah, but I think he has it because I don't think Trump. So let's say he's evading the next debates, right? Okay, that's one thing, but he can't campaign. Trump is in a bad position because no one else can campaign for Trump because no one else goes to the rallies to see. Mm-hmm. Are you going to go to a rally and see Ted Cruz? The Democrats have so many people they
he's
can
the whole
switch in.
Mm-hmm.
They have so many surrogates. We call it surrogates in political campaigning. If you're not going to see Joe, they can deploy Obama. They can deploy Kamala Harris, right? Trump has nobody to do that for him. So he's carrying his whole campaign on his personality, right? So because of COVID, he's out of the field. There's no one else to they're talking about virtual campaign events. But I don't know if you guys saw the video of him talking. I think that man, they had a 30-second snip where he's talking and it just seemed off. He just seemed, and for them to send him to the hospital. Yeah. And they said, well, he's going to be there for a few days. I'm he's not handling this well. Yeah. It went from he has mild symptoms, he's just resting in his residence, to, he's having moderate symptoms and a fever, to, we're going to take him to Walter Reed for a few days.
Yeah. Doesn't this sound familiar though? Doesn't this sound familiar? Wasn't this Herman Cain? He's resting.
That's what I'm saying.
He has a hospital bed.
Yeah. And then we forget Boris across the pond. He got sick too, and he almost died. The British Prime Minister. He almost died, and Boris is a little younger than Trump. Yeah. So, I mean, Trump is old. Yeah. He's 74, and he doesn't take care of himself. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I'm not gonna wish death on nobody, but he could really.
And when we come back,
it is what it is.
When we come back, can we talk about that? Because I feel there's kind of been a mismanagement of for all of a sudden everyone has morals and ethics in terms of relating to Trump, but whenever Trump says anything about someone else, it's well, He didn't mean it like that.
They pretend to have moral and ethics. That's what we're supposed to say.
It's all just
I don't wish death upon him, but I think it would be good for the Republic if this is how the Trump story ended.
Okay.
Do you though? What are you concerned? Are you concerned about a possible martyrdom campaign by Pence?
No, because this is literally the perfect way if he's gonna go out. If somebody shot him, right, then you would have people rising up to like, to like be like, oh, you guys killed. That's a martyr, right? Yeah. But if Trump died from COVID, it would be so quiet.
Yeah,
it'd be like,
I don't think so.
I feel like they'll blame people for making it up just to get him, just to kill him.
Yeah, I think that his supporters are fanatical and insane and defy all reason.
To make the links that they make.
Well, how many people?
Well, you don't need the same rationale that I have.
I feel like we just big up Trump supporters. How many people?
I think they're just loud.
Yeah, I don't think people really.
I think they're just loud.
No, they kill people.
People also don't have to actively support Trump, but they can just say, "Well, Trump's policies are good for me, so I'm going to keep voting for it because, as far as I'm concerned, the policies that aren't good for me, I don't care about." So there are some of those people who, again, you don't have to be malicious and vile to be racist and to still go along with racist policy. You just have to be negligent and unconcerned and very self-centered in terms of, if you think there aren't a lot of those people in this country.
I think those people
really
would be the ones with guns in the streets, though. I think his riders. I think he has very few riders.
I think, but separately, I will say that I was talking with my dad the other day, and he was talking about his friend going by to get guns at what is it, Academy or some shit like that, like wherever, like not Walmart, but wherever. And he was like, yeah, they're all out, all out. And this is in Houston, Texas. So like, that's like a city. And I'm like, if y'all are out of guns, if y'all are out of bullets in a city, I don't even want to know what's going on in like other parts of Texas where it's more rural or less black folk or less empowered black folk.
Yeah. Last time I went to a gun store, he was saying they can't keep a gun on the shelf. He was like, they're just constantly being bought out. I don't know who the hell's buying them. America has like 400 million guns. There's a gun for every person in this country, so I don't know who's buying them.
Look, and if you don't have one, what does that mean about the person next to
you?
Yeah. And really the mentally ill can get guns. Like I'm like, you made it so much easier for people to get guns. So many unsteady people for them to get guns. And we've seen more than once where Donald Trump, his protesters are not violent, but murderous. So even when he was bringing that up in the debate, like your supporters who they're rioting and they're protesting and they're killing people, that was a no. Your protesters are killing people, going to whole different cities and murdering people. So and while their moms drive them there. So it's just kind of like this enforced evil. Like I just can't.
Yeah.
So I don't. If he does die from this, I don't, because his supporters at this point still think it's a hoax. You know,
I think if he died from, that's why I said it would be really quiet, because it's like your guy died from something he called a who are you gonna fight?
Right.
I would think it was the Democrats, the radical left.
They'll find a way, because again, the end of Trump isn't the end of white supremacy. It's just he's a symbol for it, and white supremacy will find a way to grapple onto something else to continue going forward, and because it's all just an idea. Like even him and all his greatness, he's just an idea.
All right, you guys.
Remember when he was out here lynching people, when black people were getting lynched and they were saying that it was murders or people were committing suicide?
Yeah.
Like I feel like if there's something that does happen to him, because he's such an idiot and because he's created this division, that it's going to be our fault. And the woman's name I was talking about was Megyn Kelly.
Megyn Kelly, yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly was in there somewhere.
Yeah.
just in essence of time, like we will come back to this, but thank you for everyone who's watching or who's going to watch this. My name is Elizabeth Chijioke.
I'm Chi.
I'm Rock.
And I'm Marisa.